It's a bit surprising how much gear you can end up needing or accumulating with this hobby. We have camera gear, microphones, lighting, piles and piles of cables, and who knows what else. The list does go on and on. While I've slowly gotten to a point where I know what I need, mostly through trial and error, I'm always looking for ways to improve my setup or finding better ways to use the gear I do have. One thing I do use is a webcam for several different purposes. So when BenQ reached out to me asking if I'm willing to take a look at their IdeaCam S1 Pro, I said, sure, why not? It does have some features that I've been looking for specifically, so yes, upfront they did provide me this free of charge in exchange for my thoughts, but I'll show how it's worked for me in my setup. Maybe it'll work for you as well. We'll go over some of the things I like about it and some things I think can be improved. But to be clear, this is a sponsored video, so thank you to BenQ for providing the IdeaCam for me to take a look at. So the BenQ IdeaCam at the core is a webcam with some extra features you might not find on your normal webcams. I've long used the webcam as my action cam during live streams, and you may have seen that many times if you have tuned in. While I use my big camera for the face cam, it's useful to have a smaller camera you can move around easily, where maybe the quality of a full DSLR camera isn't as important as the flexibility that a webcam offers due to the size. Going over the specs, the IdeaCam goes up to almost 4K resolutions, although not fully. Like many webcams, it has a microphone built in and a nice extra feature of a ring light, mostly for use with the attachable close-up lens, among other things. It compares favorably to many of the popular webcam choices, but on paper it doesn't stand out as a superior choice on specs alone. We also have a handy control puck that lets you manipulate some of the camera features on the fly, although only with the included software. Still, that's quicker than messing with the mouse to change these, so it's a nice inclusion. The whole point with the IdeaCam is to focus on the extra features centered around some of the creative things you can do with it. Things like an automatically adjusting view when you flip it down to shoot things on a table. Or the magnet mount that lets you easily move the camera where it makes sense for a particular shot. And one of the cool party tricks, the attachable close-up lens that really gets you close to whatever you're looking at. Like really close. So let's take a quick look at some of the places where I've used the IdeaCam and where I'll probably keep using it. As mentioned, I've used the IdeaCam as my action cam for live streams, where it's been a welcome addition, and being able to move it around easily is a really nice perk. I definitely enjoy using it for showing things on my desk, and it does make sense where this is a focus of the camera versus a different webcam. Like in many cases, when something is designed for a specific use case, it can make your workflow easier. Putting my other webcam on a mount basically locks it to that one spot, and not so much with the IdeaCam. The flexibility of being able to easily move it around is great. Something I noticed, however, is that it certainly does make about an average impression on the quality of the video. The resolution is there, but we do have a lot of noise, and it needs a lot of light to really produce a decent image. But point being, for all its features at the end of the day, it's still a small sensor crammed in a tiny package like many other webcams. So, expect the same limitations and similar performance, especially trying to dial in just the right white balance or saturation. I did find when at autofocus mode, it did hunt for that focus lock quite a bit, but that could be in my particular setup or lighting. The nice thing is if you lock the focus while mounted, it'll automatically switch to autofocus when you remove it from the mount. That keeps things easier if you decide to move it around like I do during a live stream. Also, to use some of the more advanced features, you'll want to leverage the Inspire software BenQ provides. If you try to use the camera directly in OBS or any other software, some things aren't as easy, including the fact that the puck will not work. So you have to work around a bit of that. They really do want you to use the actual software it's provided with. I think the best approach is to do a window capture in OBS instead of using it as a direct source. This is exactly the setup I used for my VCF Midwest live stream where I showed up a whole bunch of stuff, so check that out if you want to see more of it in action. Looking outside of live streams, the ability to really close in on objects is really handy. I don't know that it'd fully replace a dedicated camera for this purpose, but it's there and it's a really cool way to capture those sort of shots, if you don't already have a solution for it or a dedicated macro lens. Just don't misplace a little attachment. Being able to move the camera around easily, and honestly the design makes it much easier to hold on other cameras, so they thought that part through properly. Getting into smaller areas to get a shot or a real close-up of some retro part makes this really useful for my purposes. You get a bit of a jack of all trades with this camera as far as getting just the right shot you were looking for. Like this, or this. Where a DSLR may be really difficult to use. The IdeaCam fills that gap really well. So the IdeaCam S1 Pro is a very handy tool to have in your video making toolbox. I personally plan to use it for live streams and for getting in close and personal when I'm shooting retro gear in places I just can't get in with my big camera. It'll also come in handy when I need an extra camera shooting down to get additional B-roll. I do have to mention the price though, because at about $200 it's still a big ask for what this gives you. Sure, it has some really good things going for it, like the flexibility of being able to move around, or getting those overhead shots with the flip-down features, but that's still quite a bit of money, where you can likely get a camera that favorably compares on the video front for under $100. So do the extra features the IdeaCam brings to the table make up for that price difference? Well, I'll have to leave that for you to decide, but it certainly will get used in my setup. I think it makes a strong case above all on being so flexible. We also have to keep in mind for what the camera was designed for. It was designed specific for this kind of sharing setup and being able to move it back and forth like we've seen, so gotta keep that in mind. That's kind of where the extra price is coming from. I hope you enjoyed this brief look at the BenQ IdeaCam S1 Pro, and I hope to cover more of the gear I use for making videos and future content, so keep an eye out for that. As always, thanks for watching. Feel free to check out some of my other videos, or if you want to catch me live, tune in on Thursdays at 8:45 p.m. Central. I'm also on all the typical social media, as well as on my website.